Hey, I'm Dr. Harry McCleary, licensed clinical psychologist and Navy veteran, and I specialize in talking to warriors about their feelings. In this video, I want to talk about a pretty heavy topic, talking to your kids about PTSD, but I'm going to lighten it up a little bit by throwing in some clips of my favorite movie, Major Payne.
Hello there, fella. You know what you're having? It's called a nightmare. You know what a nightmare is? Well, that's all this is. Why don't you run on back to your room for that man jump out the closet and chop your little head off? Sensitive.
This is one of my favorite movies, and if you haven't seen it, I have to suggest it. Now, as a serious licensed clinical psychologist, I have to say that there were some parts of this movie that are inappropriate and may be offensive to certain audiences. However, my veteran side says, "Ha ha! This movie is hilarious." Kids, fortunately or unfortunately, are like little sponges. So they're always taking in this information and trying to figure out what's going on in this big world. Some of that information is coming from those adults that they're living with. And if you're struggling with PTSD or your partner is struggling with PTSD, they may be picking up on some of that. They may not know exactly what's going on, but they can pick up that one of their parents, one of the adults that they care about, is stressed out. Your kids might be scared. Your kids might be confused on what's really going on. And this is why it might be important to have a conversation with your kids.
You want to see nurturing?
My first tip is to not do what Major Payne does here.
Once upon a time, deep in the jungle, there was a little Indian that could. And he was chugging his way across the enemy line. Chugga, 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 toot, toot. This little Indian mission was to take some AK-47s and a nuclear payload over the mountain to the 2063 Battalion. Needless to say, there was plenty opposition. You think that stopped the little engine that could? No sirree, Bob. He just kept chugging along. Chugga, 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 chugga. Toot, toot. Not even when they climbed aboard the train and popped out the eyes of the conductor and blood and snot was ripping out his eye sockets. You think that stopped the little engine that could? Damn Skippy, he just kept chugging along. Chugga, 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 toot, toot. It wasn't until Charlie rigged the bridge with plastic explosive. Just as the little engine was making his way across the trestle, boom! An explosion happened.
Don't do that. My first tip is to share age-appropriate information with your kids. Now, if your kid is 5 years old, maybe you don't want to tell them the graphic details of what happened in battle. Maybe you don't want to tell them the graphic details of what happened to you when you were a kid. And it may not be important for all of those details. It may not even be important for you to tell them what actually happened. But it's important to acknowledge that something did happen. Something occurred to Daddy a long time ago, or something occurred to Daddy while he was on deployment. And he's working on some of those things to get better. That may not be all you need to share about your trauma. Now, if you have teenagers, you might want to share a little bit more, or you may not. Stay tuned to the end of this video, and I'm going to give you a bonus tip on how to talk to your kids about PTSD.
Thank you, Major. I love you.
What's your anger, boy?
to show you some affection.
I don't like it. Make me feel all funny.
The next tip that I have for you is to encourage your kids to share their feelings. Encourage them to share what's going on for them. And maybe even model some of this for them. Let them know that there are times in which you struggle. There are times in which you are working on yourself. To encourage them to share with you. Because the last thing that you want as a parent is for your kids to be afraid to tell you anything, and thus they just do whatever they do behind your back. That's not good for anybody. My third tip for you is to tell them that it's not their fault. Kids take in a lot. They're little sponges. However, their ability to understand what's going on is limited. So they might think that if mommy or daddy is upset, then they did something wrong, that they're a bad kid. And that may very much not be the case. So encourage them to be open with you and let them know that it's not their fault that you're struggling right now. And it's not their job to fix it either. This isn't going to be an easy conversation, but my goal is to help you make it a productive one. The fourth tip that I want to share with you is instilling hope for your kids. Letting them know that there are treatments out there that work. Letting them know that you are continuing to work on yourself, that you're working on coming out of this funk, that you're working on going out more, that you're working on treatment. Instilling that hope for kids can be extremely important because it makes them feel like things are going to be okay. And if you are getting treatment, maybe you want to tell yourself that things are going to be okay as well. I told you that if you stayed to the end with me, that I give you a bonus tip, and here we are. The last tip that I want to give you is using your kids to help with your recovery. And I know I just said it's not your kids' problem to fix, and I stand by that. However, many times kids are wondering, well, what can they do? How can they support you? And the reality is your kids can support you. For many people, their kids are the reason that they're still around. They're the reasons that they keep going, the reason that they may even be in treatment right now. Kids can be very difficult, and they can be great motivators at the same time. So if your kid is wondering what they can do to support you, I want you to tell them. And maybe that's just, hey, I'd like you to shoot me a text every once in a while just to check in on me if your kids are a little bit older. Maybe when you see me down sometimes, I'd like you to give me a hug. I'd like you to give me some space if I'm getting extra angry. I'd like you to not wake me up if I'm having a nightmare. All of these things can be extremely helpful, and they can also be extremely small. But involving your kids to a healthy level, not putting all the burden on them, but allowing yourself to let people help you, to let your kids help you, can be extremely important. Something to think about. If this video was helpful for you, please like it, subscribe to my page if you want to learn more about PTSD. But more important than that, if you know a veteran, if you know a service member, if you know a family member or friend of a veteran or service member that can benefit from this video, I ask that you share it with them. Because at the end of the day, that's really what all of this is about. One veteran trying to help another.